This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Last week, Kao Cheng-li, chairman of Datong Oil, was sentenced to 16 years in prison. The sentence comes 2 months after his company was caught selling adulterated oil products. Since that time, revelations about the wide-reaching food scandal have prompted a national discussion about food safety and the beginnings of legal and administrative reforms. The Consumers Foundation is a non-profit located in Taipei and has been a strong advocate for stricter regulation of the food industry. I spoke by phone with the Foundation's CFO, Terry Huang, to get his take. I started our conversation by asking him for his thoughts on last week's sentencing.
I think it is a very important and very good sentence to this kind of criminal case because it has caused a lot of damage to our society and our consumers. And then this is the first time the law court used the new law to make this sentence and give such a heavy sentence. I think it is a very good alert to those who would like to violate the law. So I think that when they heard and then they knew the news, they will never do it again. I think it will be a very good shock to those violations.
And the company is also facing fines. A lot of that money is going to be used to...
Yeah, it is again. It will be fined to up to amount equivalent to the profit again from the selling products. But it is an income of the government. It is not a compensation for consumers. So what I'm pity that if the money was transferred to the compensation for all the consumers are suffered, I think it will be better.
So you're disappointed that the money is not being used?
Yeah. It's not going to the consumer's pocket.
Can you talk about why that is a problem?
In my experience, most of the civil procedure for ask for compensation, they are received a verdict several years later, so it is always late. And then everything is changed. So the consumer only win the verdict without any compensation. So how to get the compensation from a foundation should be set up in the present time.
Part of the government's response to the scandal has been to start drafting amendments to the act governing food sanitation in Taiwan, and actually the Legislative Yuan is reviewing that measure right now. So far, the amendments that have been under discussion are stricter inspections of food products, larger fines for violations, and language that could make sure future victims of tainted foods are compensated. Do you think that these amendments are a positive step? What do you see in there that is hopeful?
First, I would like to say that we welcome any stricter improvement of our law system. And then it's good news to amend the law. So I think I welcome it.
So you think that these amendments, if passed, would be a big improvement?
Yeah, it will be a better improvement because, and the next question is, if you had a big sum of money, and then what will the money comes from? And then what will the money do? Is it a clear way to protect our consumers? Is still unknown. So it is just a legal source, a legal foundation to collecting the money. But what we care is if the foundation, the fund has been set up, and what will the government manage it? Is it efficiency? Is it enough? Is it really good for the consumer? It is still unknown. Yeah.
So you think that the amendment is a positive step, but you're still waiting to see exactly what all the details are going to be before you say that it's exactly what you want?
Correct, yes.
Are there any other amendments that you would like to see in this law that are not being discussed now?
I would like to see that the law has some amendment for the punishment to be more severe, and then it could become an important instrument to control the situation not to happen again. I think traditional Chinese culture, many of the producers of foodstuffs, they do not care the civil procedure, but they do care their personal safety and freedom. Once they have any possibility to be detained or sentenced to become a jail, they were afraid of that. So we always emphasize if there is going to be more criminal costs to make them into jail, and then the situation will be improved.
Outside of legislation, are there any other reforms that you would like to see the government adopt?
First, I think the government should have decided to enforce the law more stricter because in the past, the authority did not enforce the law so decisively, and then
So even the laws that are in place right now, the government was not enforcing those laws.
It's a long question. And the other way, I think this time we found a phenomenon that the district attorney, because they are weaponed by a new law, a food law, it just mandated in this June. It gives the authority of the DA who have the right to take in charge of this kind of cases and make it become a criminal case. So the district attorney, they can detain the people who violate the regulations and detain all the tainted items. That is a big power to shock all the violators. So I think the two departments of the government, one is the executive department, one is the judicial department. This time they work hand in hand together. I think it is a great pleasure to make an improvement.
We've been speaking with Terry Huang, CFO of the Consumers Foundation. Tomorrow we'll continue our conversation and talk about some of the work the foundation has done to help consumers of tainted products get compensation from food manufacturers. Thanks for tuning into Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Menconi.
This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Last week, Kao Cheng-li, chairman of Datong Oil, was sentenced to 16 years in prison. The sentence comes 2 months after his company was caught selling adulterated oil products. Since that time, revelations about the wide-reaching food scandal have prompted a national discussion about food safety and the beginnings of legal and administrative reforms. The Consumers Foundation is a non-profit located in Taipei and has been a strong advocate for stricter regulation of the food industry. I spoke by phone with the Foundation's CFO, Terry Huang, to get his take. Continuing our conversation from yesterday, I asked him about the challenges faced by consumers of tainted products when they seek compensation in court.
The court system is less efficiency and too conservative to render verdicts in favor of consumer. I think we need a reform of our legal system because the legal system is too conservative. They ask our consumer has to
They have to prove everything.
They have to prove everything, and then because it is hard for the consumer to prove it, so we ask for a reverse of the burden of proof. So if the law has been accepted, and then I think the verdict will be better than the local court.
What has your foundation's role been during this scandal in making sure that consumers who have been damaged by the edible oil get compensated and get the kind of help that they need?
Yeah, during those periods, we receive many complaints from our consumers, and then they give us their opinions, and they give us their information about tainted products. So we collect all the necessary information to the government, to communicate with them, and then we always suggest the authorities concerned to enforce the law strictly and urge the government to impose a more severe administrative fine. And we suggest the fine amount should be up to the amount which is equivalent to the profit that those violators gain from their violation and their misconduct. So we are also a pressure group to our government.
At this point, what do you think are the chances that the government is going to find some way to compensate consumers that have been damaged by the edible oil scandal?
One, I think, will depend on the amendment of the setting up a fund will be complete. It's a legal legislative process, and the other is I think the government should take any judicial step to seize the properties of these violators to make it a pool, make it into a common community pool for the compensation for the consumer.
So is the Consumer Foundation supporting any legal action against the manufacturers of the edible oil?
Yes, we do so. Consumer group has been assigned by our government to take class actions in southern Taiwan, and then we just have our volunteer lawyers who like to support the civil case, And presently, if there's any need to be sued, because the scandal is happened all around the island, if in the northern Taiwan there is any need to raise this kind of class action, the foundation would do so.
And what company is being sued right now? Is this Changchi or another company?
That's the company which is Datong Chang-li, because this is the first case happened in Taiwan.
And so the Consumer Foundation is supporting this class action lawsuit, providing expert help, legal assistance. And food scandals have come up in the news a lot in Taiwan over the last few years. In your view, what is the root cause of these scandals?
Basically, I very agree that in this situation, it was because of the lax regulation, and then the law enforcement are very poor, and then the traditional culture inside the industry, because they do not obey the law, and they abuse the respect that the consumer gives to them. So I think it is a long story, but I think we rebuild our society, strengthen the ethic and the law system. Is a long way, still a long way to go.
It sounds like you think that these kinds of scandals are going to continue to happen.
Yeah, it's so sad. I do think so. I don't think the law system is quite so well. And then the government is just begin to strengthen his law enforcement decision. And the other way is we still have many ways which we are still concerned about, such as we don't have more income, but the cost of our foodstuff is getting higher and higher. What kind of stuff they use in preparing for the food we shopping, we consuming, still unknown. So maybe there are some needs for the for the cheaper food. So I think once there is a need, there's always a supplier.
Oh, so because food prices are so high in Taiwan,
yes,
that's part of the reason why these food manufacturers are trying to find ways to reduce costs.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with Terry Huang, CFO of the Consumers Foundation. Thanks for tuning into Taiwan Talk. I'm Keith Manconi.